What if I told you that a $450,000 salary, $1 million home, and a job at a place like Meta isn't a safety net, but actually, it's a trap? Okay, let's get into this, because what we're about to unpack pretty much flips everything we've been told about success right on its head.
So picture this. Last October, there's a senior engineer at Meta. This guy had reached the absolute summit. I mean, living in the Bay Area, working at a top tech company, he had played the game perfectly, and he'd won. His pay package, we're talking $450,000 a year. This isn't just living comfortably. This is the 1%. This is elite.
And of course, he had the house to go with it, a $1.5 million home in the Bay Area. You know, the ultimate symbol that you've made it.
He had it all, what you might call the holy trinity of the modern American dream. A huge salary, a prime real estate, and a resume that just screamed unfireable. He was totally secure, set for life, or so he thought. But then, a clock started ticking, and in just 6 short months, everything, and I mean everything, changed. 180 days after being on top of the entire world, that same engineer was sleeping in a homeless shelter. So the question is, how on earth does that happen? I know what you're thinking. Your mind probably jumps to the usual suspects, right? A drug problem, a gambling addiction, something like that. But it was none of those things. He fell victim to something much quieter, and frankly, way more terrifying. He crossed what gamers call the kill line. If you've played video games, you know this. It's a hidden damage threshold. Once your health drops below that line, you're not just hurt, you're instantly wiped out. Game over. In our economy, that line is very, very real, and a lot of us are dancing right on the edge of it without even knowing. And here's how the dominoes fell for him. First, day 1, a layoff, and poof, his stock options, a huge chunk of his income, just vanish. Then, day 60, a $60,000 medical emergency hits, and suddenly he doesn't have that amazing company insurance anymore. By day 90, his savings are completely drained by that massive $12,000 a month mortgage. And by day 180, it's all over. Foreclosure. He's on the street. And this really gets to the core of it. We tend to think of financial trouble as this slow slide, a gradual decline. But the reality for so many people today is that it's a cliff. You are fine 1 minute, and you are completely over the edge the next. And don't for a second think this is just a tech bro problem. A recent Bankrate study found that 59% of Americans, that's most of the country, can't cover a surprise $1,000 expense. That means the majority of us are one bad day, one car repair, one trip to the ER, away from that same cliff. The hard truth is, the whole idea of a safe career is basically an illusion now. We've been taught to optimize our lives for maximum income, maximum efficiency. But that hyper-optimization is actually what makes us fragile. It is the enemy of survival. So we need a new way to think about all of this, a new mental model. And the best one I've heard is this. Are you an F1 racer, or are you a Jeep Wrangler? Think about it. The F1 racer is a marvel of engineering. It's built for one thing, insane speed on a perfectly smooth track. But the second it hits a single pothole, let's call that pothole a layoff, it shatters into a million pieces. The Jeep, on the other hand, well, it's a little slower, it's kind of clunky, maybe less efficient, but when it hits that same pothole, its beefy suspension just absorbs the shock, and it keeps on rolling. Our Meta engineer, he was a perfectly tuned F1 car. His whole life was optimized for that smooth, predictable racetrack of a booming tech industry. And when that track disappeared overnight, he had absolutely nowhere else to go. Okay, so that's the problem, and it's a scary one. But anxiety without action is totally useless. So how do you stop being an F1 car and start building yourself a Jeep? Well, there's a strategy for it, and it's called the Fortress Protocol. First things first, you have to completely change how you measure financial security. Forget net worth. That's a vanity metric. It's all tied up in things you can't sell quickly, like your house. The only number that truly matters in a crisis is your time to death, or TTD. It's simple, your liquid cash divided by your monthly bills. It's the answer to the question, how long could you survive if your income dropped to 0 tomorrow? And calculating your TTD is just step 1 of a 5-part plan. So you calculate that number, you structure your life so you could survive a 30% pay cut tomorrow. You build village equity, a real community. You diversify who you are beyond your job title, and you have a go-bag strategy, an immediate plan for radical downsizing. So let's make this super concrete. Ask yourself these questions right now. Seriously, could you actually afford your life on 70% of what you make? Are you spending time building real relationships, helping people with no strings attached? Who are you besides an engineer or a manager? And do you have a rock-solid, actionable plan for what you would do if the worst happened? You see, this all points to a fundamental shift. The new superpower in this economy isn't how good you are at one specific skill. It's not about being the best coder or the best salesperson. It's about your ability to generate options for yourself, to have a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D. The reality is this: we are living in a world that is getting more unpredictable, more off road. It's a Jeep world out there. So the question you really have to ask yourself is this: are you still trying to build a fragile, high maintenance F1 life in a world that demands a Jeep? Because in the end, it's not about having the biggest salary or the fanciest job title. It's about resilience. It's not about being the smartest or the fastest person in the room. It's about